Well, chemtrailing first came to my attention because I live in the southwest of France, where we get a lot of high sunshine hours, and I worked outside all my life as a builder, so I was working weather dependent, and I would always be aware of whether it was going to rain or not, because if it was raining I was going home. And when last year there was no sunshine. The sky seemed to be littered with these trails in the sky, and it really caught my attention because I thought, well, I've never seen this before. So I started to look into, well actually, I'd heard about HAARP very briefly, but I kind of skipped over it, but I knew it had the capacity to affect the climate and the weather. So I started to look into what might be happening in the skies with weather modification, and I came across chemtrails very quickly. And when you start to look into chemtrails, there's an awful lot of information on the web, which really opened up a lot of doors for me, and I started to research it, and I realised there was a lot of disinformation. There's a lot of sophisticated disinformation sites, which immediately made me realise that something is going on that's big. And I started to realise that chemtrails is a big phenomenon. So what was chemtrails? It was they weren't contrails because they persisted. You know, a normal plane would leave a short trail that would dissipate. That's what I always remembered when I looked up at a normal sky. And these trails, they were lasting all day long, and they were making X's and grids and peculiar shapes in the sky that I'd never seen before, I'd never really noticed. And as I started to research into it, I came across a movie called What in the World Are They Spraying? And that really opened up my eyes and helped me to start researching appropriate material and steering away from the disinformation. And I guess it became quite a journey as I started to uncover more information, and it started to build a bigger picture for me. And then I wanted to find out stuff for myself personally, so I did a rainwater analysis to find out if what I'd found in that movie, What in the World Are They Spraying, was relevant. So we did a rainwater analysis, and we had excessively high amounts of aluminium, barium, strontium, and many of the other metals they said they would be using for geoengineering, because geoengineering is like the official term for chemtrailing. So it became very conclusive for me. It confirmed, and I became very convinced then, and I started to make videos of these strange X's and grids, and I wanted to share what I was finding, so I started up a YouTube channel, and lots of people started to make comments on the videos, which added more fuel to the fire, because lots of people were interested. So I started a journey of constant research and constant documentation, video documentation, and studying legitimate evidence documents, scientific journals, and government papers. And basically I started to realise that there was a genuine thing going on, and I became convinced that I had to expose this as best I could. That was the amazing thing. As I started to look into it, I started to link up with people all around the world, because they were leaving comments on my videos, and I was absolutely amazed really that I was linking up with people all around the world. I'm linked up with people literally globally, in Japan, in Argentina, in Australia, in Canada, in the States, all around Europe. It's I was absolutely inspired by the number of people that made contact with me and wanted to know more, and were sharing what they had found. And I realised this is global, and we have a magnificent open source situation where people are sharing as much information, trying to expose the truth. So I became like a conduit sharing that information, because lots of people were interested in my videos and were leaving comments, and we linked up lots of groups on Facebook, which really was a massive awakening, because I realised there were hundreds of thousands of people globally concerned about this, if not more. Without a doubt, there are many documents that I have found that weather modification is a key purpose, but as you research into it more, you can find more and more evidence to suggest multiple usage, so that there are more than one issues, or more than one uses. And I think that when you realise that a massive program like this has to be going on with the complicity of many governments, but it's not open, it's covert, then you're not going to do a program of this size when you could, just for one purpose. So I think that there are definitely other purposes, and from research that I found, I can see there are many different uses of this technology. It's a weather warfare, really. Absolutely, absolutely. And when you do start to research it, you can find genuine documents from the military, particularly the US military, and from US universities that confirm it. But I myself have filmed military planes spraying, turning it on and off at specific points to make X's and to make specific shapes. I've filmed it many times. I've filmed military planes, I've filmed big white planes with no markings whatsoever, and I filmed other planes using Flight Radar 24, confirming which planes they might be, co-opted commercial planes. That's how I started to realise how huge this must be, that there are dedicated chemtrail fleets, there are military planes doing it, and there are co-opted commercial flights, which by using Flight Radar 24 you can confirm it, because I'm filming the planes, and I can film planes that are in the same airspace with only 500 meters difference in altitude, and one's got a short contrail and one's got an horizon to horizon stretching chemtrail. And chemtrails is actually being officially recognized by the US government in a document that Congressman Dennis Kucinich wanted to pass through a bill. He mentioned chemtrails as an exotic weapon, as well as other weather warfare, psychotronic weapons and frequency weapons and different types of weapons that are all linked in with the research. When you start to find out about chemtrails and HAARP, it's officially been named, but that bill didn't get through because he wanted to make sure that space couldn't be weaponized. And it didn't get through Congress. So, but it is mentioned, chemtrails is actually mentioned as a word specifically as an exotic weapon. And there are references to HAARP by the European Union requesting permission to find out about the non-lethal use of HAARP as a weapon. And so there are lots of official references to these phenomena that I've been documenting as weapons, which that then ties it to the military, ties it to the governments. What I found out that the particles that are in the sprays, when the trails cross each other and they form these X's and grids, they become a mobile antenna. And I've got documentation that talks about this and how they do this. They reflect it off the ionosphere and they bounce it off an antenna so that they can go over the horizon with the energy that they're using from HAARP and from other installations which are the same ionospheric heaters. What they can do is they can change using different types of frequencies, extremely low frequency, very high frequency, very low frequency, a whole combination. They can change the air pressure. So what they can localize a pressure change, so they can create a high pressure in one location or a low pressure in another location, and they create something called an Omega block. And an Omega block can, by creating different pressure zones, you can keep a weather front in one location, or you can create a funnel effect and channel different weather into one location. So if you want to create, for example, a drought over Iran, because your governments are targeting Iran, and it's a weather warfare, they can create a drought, and they've been experiencing the worst drought they've ever had on record, so that their food production is hit badly. And because they've got sanctions, their imports and exports are monitored and they're being affected. So that's how they can use this as a weapon. They can induce droughts, they can induce hurricanes, they can induce floods, they can create earthquakes, they can trigger volcanic eruptions. And now that people are starting to focus on what could be possible, they're researching the evidence, they're using the available resources to confirm this. You can look at the magnimeter that measures the activity of these HAARP installations, and there's always a spike before an earthquake. There's even a Japanese scientist who specialises in GPS technology, and he's noticed a big change in the GPS activity just before an earthquake, which is being affected by the use of HAARP. The GPS isn't a part of it, but there's a record of the atmosphere being changed. And as far as global warming concerned, there's a German scientist who's recently talked to the Royal Society about solar activity and the fact that many of the other planets are being affected. Many of the other planets are going through changes at the moment, which means that the global warming threat isn't man-made, because men aren't on the other planets and they're not affecting those planets as well. So changes happen to planets, and our planet does go through cycles. For example, the Vikings were growing barley in Greenland up until the 13th century, which means it was much warmer then. Then we had a mini ice age in the Middle Ages. And of course, man's industrial activity had no impact at all in the past. So there were great changes going on, and you can't correlate that with human activity. So global warming is a big agenda for us. It's a big problem for them to react to, and that's what geoengineering is. Geoengineering is a response to the threat of global warming. So this is why there's so much in scientific documentation about what geoengineering is and all the various elements of weather control is, because that's a response to this global warming threat, which realistically the global warming threat is a fraud. It's very, very simple to understand. With the HAARP facilities, they can, by creating these omega blocks, by changing the air pressures, they can hold, they can funnel in a cold front, and they can hold it in place with the omega blocks, so that they could, for example, I think in the UK that you had 80 consecutive days where it was below zero. That's the first time for many, many years that happened. But the problem with that is that it's affected the harvests. And when you affect all the harvests, the cost of the food production, the cost of food supply, it goes up. Now, we're now seeing a new market evolve in weather derivatives, where big money is being played out, where they're betting against a harvest, whether harvest is going to be good or bad, and it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad because they control the price of the grains. So this is how controlling food production is very profitable for those at the top, because they're betting, and they're betting against it. But so if they know that the weather's going to be bad because they're controlling the weather, or they're linked in, they're in correspondence with those who are controlling the weather, they can make huge profits, and they can increase the cost of living for everyone. So it affects everyone's lives. I mean, this isn't just a weather warfare against supposed opposition. This is weather warfare against all of us as individuals. And this is why it's very concerning, because this is all a revelation to me, to realise that perhaps our governments aren't working for our best interests. They're working for corporate interests. They're not working for us, we the people. We are supposed to elect these people who should be serving our best interests, when clearly now I'm starting to understand they're not working for our interests at all.
Yeah, okay folks, I'm here today in Hyde Park in London for a geoengineering protest demonstration. Started off with about 5 people here, just packed out here, loads of people here. Interviews going on, live radio stream, police have been here moving on vans and all that stuff. There's a Chugaboom that's been kicked on out here. Police harassing well-meaning innocent people just going about their business. Come on over here, I want to show you. When I went to school there was about 7 clouds. Now they've got all sorts of new clouds that they're trying to normalise all these chemicals raining down on us through. Look at all this. Did you see anything like that when you were young? I didn't. All new, harped out of the skies. You can see all the frequencies from the radio waves being sent up. 1 billion watts of power the HAARP facilities can shoot up to the sky, to the ionosphere, and they use the particles from the aircraft to conduct their magnetic fields. So they're changing normality, they're changing reality, they're trying to normalise these crazy clouds.